Right, we've cleaned all the gearbox cases up, and now we're going to start pressing all new bearings in. The bearings for the trap door, which we're going to be doing first, the part number for them is 8992A. So, get your new bearing, sit it into the trap door. It's centred under there. You want the right inside up. And then when you start, just same as when I was doing the engine, just get it so it's just started in and then just let the pressure off. And that'll just allow it to centralise itself, and then just press it home. And always make sure that you've got something underneath where the bearing's going in to support it, so that you don't crack your trap door. Right, once you've got that one in, just move it over. I'll just grab the other bearing. Same for this one, right inside up, it's centred, make sure your support's properly underneath where the bearing's being pressed down. Start it in. Let the pressure off, so it centralise itself. And that's your bearings in. And you can see the groove in there for your circlip. Right, I'll knock you off for now. I'll get set up in a different spot. Right, I'm going to put the retaining rings in, and what you've got, your retaining ring has a beveled edge on one side, and the bevel wants to come up, so it's opposite your bearings basically. So just get it into place, make sure it's in the slot. Just grab my usual screwdriver. Press down round the edge. Just give it a push, and just make sure it's in the holes, in the groove properly. And then grab your other. I've also put a little coating of oil on the the retaining ring, circlip, whatever you want to call it. Get your circlip pliers set up. And then just repeat the whole process again. Sure it's in its slot. If you've watched these videos from the start, you may notice that I've got different circlip pliers, because my old ones were getting a bit worn and bent and just were shit really, so I bought some new ones. Right, that's your trapdoor bearings done. So next step is I'll push the bearings into the main gearbox case. So I'll knock you off for now and set you up again at the press. Right, we're going to install the big main gear in the gearbox, and if you see through the top of the gearbox there's a support that's sitting underneath where the bearing's getting pressed down on. I'll just lift that back up. Now the bearing that's going in is part number is 8996A. So same thing, numbers up. Just place the bearing in there in its hole. You get the press part on the top of it. Centralise it as best you can, and then we'll start pressing it in. Right, once it starts moving, just let the pressure off, which I keep saying each time. And then just press it until it stops. And then you've got your groove for your retaining ring. Right, and what we'll do next is I'm going to change this over and put a different support underneath that'll support underneath this hole here, and then I'll press the countershaft bearing, the new countershaft bearing home. So I'll just knock it off for a second and get this swapped over. Right, I'm going to put the countershaft needle bearing in. Part number for that is 8977. As you can see in here, I've put a support in that sits underneath where the bearing's getting pressed in. So, we'll get the bearing, and I've put a little bit of bearing retainer on this, on the bearing. So get the bearing set in place, and it just presses flush to the face of the centralised under that press a bit. Right. Right, if you notice, that's sprung then. The bearing had centred itself. Now if you carried on pressing that in, there's a chance that you could have pushed it in at an odd angle and done some damage to the bearing. So once it's squared up, just push it all the way in. Let's say it wants to be sitting flush with the surface. And that's your countershaft bearing pushed in. Just give it a wipe over if there's any excess bearing retainer. Right, and the next step is we'll get the retaining clip in the big one. So I'll knock you off for now. Right, when you put your retaining ring in your gearbox, you want the opening, obviously you want bevel side facing out, but you also want the opening here at the back at 90 degrees sort of thing, so it's, I don't know exactly why that's the case, but that's just how we've always been told to do them. So I'll just get it in its slot. And then the usual checks, just make sure it's gone all the way in. And this is quite a stiff, tight retaining ring, this, so the chances are that it's in properly. Right, that's that in. So I'll just knock you off for a minute, we'll get on to the next bit. Right, we're going to put the new bearings into the 5th gear. So the new part number for these is 35051-89A. So bearing, sit it into the top and basically righting up, and then you've got a tool which is stepped at both ends. This bit here sits inside the bearing, and then basically you just line it up and it'll push the bearing into this point here when it hits on top of the gear. Then you turn it over, and that one there, the lesser step, you push your oil seal in with that one, turn it over, and the bearing on the other side goes into this depth. You can actually buy a tool to do it, but if you've got the ability, not the ability, that's the wrong word, if you've got use of the lathe, you can soon knock up your own tools. Right, so start the usual, just start it in. Just let the pressure off. Push it home. And basically just press this all the way until this part contacts the top of the gear. and lift it out. I'll just grab the oil seal. So just push the oil seal onto the tool and then place it over the end. And it's the same thing, just push it in until this part of the tool contacts on the gear, and that's your sealing all the way then. And then as you bring it out, twist it, don't just pull it straight out. And that's your oil seal and the end of that bearing in. And then basically turn it over, position it again under the press, get your other bearing. Position your bearing in, and on this one it's the shorter. And that's your bearings in your fifth gear and your seal. Right, knock you off for now. Right, I'm going to install the fifth gear. I've got the gearbox housing set up on a support, and it's supporting underneath the inner race on the main bearing, so that when you push the fifth gear in, the pressure's all on here on the stand under the bearing. So get your gear into place. And then get your tool in. Sure it's centred. Right, and the same with any other bearing, just start pressing it. And once it's in a little bit, just let the pressure back off so it can centre itself. And then just press it on. And that's it. It goes stiff when it's all the way in, but as you can see there, the gear casing's still nice and free. Right, and that's your fifth gear pressed home And what I'll do now is I'll turn it over and we'll press the oil seal in. So I'll just knock it off for now and get it swapped over. Right, I've turned the gear case over and we're going to install the oil seal. Now what I've done off camera, I don't know if you'll be able to see, you can see some on there. I've actually poured a load of lube into the bearing so that it's not dry. So now just get your seal and place it over the hole. Get it so it's central. Your bit of pressing tool, bar, whatever you want to call it. And then just press your seal home. And as you can see, it's all nice and flush. Right, I'll just knock you off for a minute and we'll move to a different place. Right, I haven't moved it yet. What I'm going to do is I've got the new quad seal. I've coated it in oil. And I'm just going to push that into place. Drop down there. And then I'm going to get the spacer, give it a bit of a coating with some lube. Right, and then I'm just going to put the, as you push your spacer through, just twist it slightly. And that's it. Right, I'll knock you off again for now. Right, while we're still on the press, I'm going to put in the new shifter oil seal. So I just set it in place. Too long. Get it so it's sitting flush-ish. Let's move the gearbox so it's centre to the press as you can get it. Find me handle. Centralise it again. And that's your shifter oil seal in place. Right, I'll knock you off and we'll go on to the next bit. Right, next step on this is I'm going to fit the oil pan to the bottom of the gearbox case. My gaskets, as the same with the engine, using genuine James Gaskets kit. And with this kit, let's put this over here. With this kit, it comes with this instruction, and it says, coat gasket surface of oil pan with gasket cinch. Place gasket on oil pan and let stand until gasket cinch has gone sticky or is tacky. So basically you need to get some gasket cinch and put a coating on there. So gasket cinch, it's just like a gasket sealer, but it's good for all sorts of stuff. And it comes with a handy little sort of applicatory type thing, almost like a cotton wool bud on the end. Just coat the gasket surface, nice even sort of a coat all round. And then once that you've done that, it says to place it on the oil pan, which I shall do now, even though you can't see it. So basically line the holes up when you put it on the oil pan. Let's see if I can spin this round for you. Basically that's the gasket on the oil pan. All the holes are lined up. So I'll knock it off for now and we'll let that take up a little bit and go tacky. And then we'll, actually what I will do while I'm in that position is I'll put that in without disturbing the gasket. Right, I'll knock you off for now, we'll come back when that's got tacky and I'm ready to put the box on.